Hey, conservatives of Texas, how you doing? Alex DeAnda here. We're actually here at United on 45th in Bell today, doing a little on-site podcast. Something I'm trying to do here as of late. Today I have the lovely Irene Hughes. How are you doing, Miss Irene?
I'm very good. How about you?
Hey, I'm doing terrific. The best day of my life. I always try to say that as much as I possibly
I
can.
love it.
So, guys, today's conversation is going to be about the Aspen Institute and some areas of, I don't know, possible concern. What do you think?
I really think it's of great concern.
Yeah. What is it that? How long has it been in play? The Aspen Institute. How long has it been around?
I really don't know the answer to that question, but I know that AC probably has been involved with it for longer than we know, because I can remember back some years ago when I was working for Amarillo College, we would know that when they were coming on campus to check things out and everything. So it's been a while. It's not a new thing for sure. I don't know their original date, but it's been a long time. I've learned about Aspen for years.
Mm-hmm. And how did Amarillo College connect with the Aspen Institute? Is it something that they scan colleges across the nation themselves, or is this something that Amarillo College and other junior colleges look to apply to get an award? How does that work out?
There again, I'm not for sure, but I do know that they target community colleges, and my understanding is that because community colleges don't receive as much money from the state or from other sources, that they are a good target for this organization. So that's who they give money to, is just the community colleges.
Okay.
Every 2 years, they give away $1 million to the first prize winner gets $1 million every 2 years. And that's not counting the hundred thousands that they give to 10 different colleges besides the million. So you're looking at $2 million every 2 years, which kind of makes you wonder where all that money's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But you can go online and search for Aspen Institute, and they'll tell you some of their major supporters, and it might alarm you who pays into this. But that's a lot of money, and that's something we really should be concerned about, is where all the money's coming from. And that dictates what their real purpose is in helping these colleges.
We hear a lot about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Are those one of the donors?
They're on the website as donors, yes. There's probably, I would say, maybe 15, 20 different ones that they have on their website, and they are one of those. I had checked out the Joyce Foundation. I was just kind of looking to see what the different donors, what their websites had to say. So I checked out the Joyce Foundation, and I found one of the things about them that kind of concerned me was that they were very interested in taking your guns away from you. So that was one of my concerns about their organization.
I see. And some of the particulars, what are some of the, what's the model as to how they decide how you get an award?
Well, I just was on their website, or on some of my notes just this afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote them down. They have, right now, they have 5 different criteria. I read also they had 6 criteria in a different place, so I'm not for sure, but this will give you an idea of how they're determining who the winner is. And the first one was with teaching and learning was the first. And then number 2 was the certificate and degree completion. And number 3 was transfer and bachelor's attainment. Number 4 workforce success. And number 5 was equity for students of color and low income backgrounds.
That last one has me a little concerned because, as a minority, I've always seen it as very discriminatory for groups such as these here that feel as if they're doing us a favor. But really, it's a slap in the face because they're saying they have to make special accommodations for people of color. I'm considered one of the black and brown group, as you always hear it paired. As a brown, I mean, why do I need special accommodations? What are they saying? Am I challenged for whatever reason? Am I not just as smart as anyone else in the college?
Well, I think that's part of the motive. But I heard a lady that had come over from Africa recently, and she came from really poor situation, but she's become great in America. And she was so thankful for America. And she just said that organizations like this, that they take advantage of those of color and use them to pit them against other people. And she was trying to speak out and encourage people of color to speak up and say, no, we don't want this to happen. We don't need your help. We don't want to be a part of the divisive nature that this causes. But if you will study about socialism and Marxism coming into the country, that's one of their methods, is to pit one group against another group. It may be rich against poor, it may be white against black, or it may be a lot of different things. But that's part of how you get control of a country, is that you get different factions that will fight and make them fight against each other. So you'll see that this whole thing of equity, and it sounds really nice, but really what it ends up being is it's actually racism, because you pit one group against another group, and those of us that are white are supposed to feel like we're not okay because we're white. And so I really have a problem with that for all of the different colors, because I really believe that God is the one that was really diverse, and he made us all different, and he loved each one of the groups that he made. So that's how I do things, is that I just love them all. And I think when we focus on division or racism or whatever you want to call it, when we focus on that, it gets worse and worse and worse instead of getting better. If we start focusing on being happy with each other, or just being happy with what color we are, I'm glad that I'm the color that God chose me, not that I'm any better than anybody else. And you probably think you're okay being your color. So why can't we just get happy and work together and to make this a better world?
Exactly. In the workplace, I mean, if my supervisors were giving me special accommodations because they felt as if, for whatever reason, I was limited, that would be an insult.
Yes.
That would be an insult.
It should be. I don't understand why some people don't see it that way. But I do know that control is a lot easier if you can make people feel like they're not okay.
Sure.
Then you can come in and control them, and that's what Marxism is all about, is control.
It really is. And they use the philanthropy aspect and the equitable and the diverse, those words, as Kevlar, in my opinion. So anyone that ever stands up against the Marxist underlying premise, they should be shunned, because how can you be against black and brown and diversity and equity and inclusion? I mean, those are just, to me, Kevlar words to keep them protected from folks calling them out. When you go to the website, I've noticed that if you go into the search bar of the Aspen Institute, and type in Christian nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting.
Oh, yes.
It's very interesting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, for one thing, I always think it's kind of interesting that we always get named. We have names, special names that supposedly are an insult. But they do say that in one of their articles, they said that Christian nationalists are particularly dangerous.
Mm.
And then they also refer to Christians as weeds, that they said they need to be pulled up from the root so they won't proliferate. So obviously, Christians are a threat to this doctrine.
So how is that not deemed discriminatory or prejudiced or hateful in speech and in action?
There, it's just it's always backwards
Mm-hmm.
to what it really is.
What if a black and brown individual is a Christian? What do they do with that situation?
I don't know. You know, another thing that I don't understand is if anybody would study history, they would find that socialism, Marxism, communism, I call them the isms.
Mm-hmm.
If they would look into history, and they could find out that after 5,800 years of world history, that no free enterprise that went into one of these isms has ever come out with liberty or prosperity. And that's a fact according to Mr. David Barton, who is a great historian of our time. And so and that's another thing is look back, even when BLM was tearing down all the statues and all of that, they didn't even have history. They didn't know the history. They were tearing down things that didn't even apply to what they thought they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They were just tearing up stuff. And that's another part of that demoralization, or trying to take away your American history so that they can control. It all goes back to control. And then, of course, money is involved if you're at the very top. But the sad part is that some of those people that are, say, locally, that are trying to make this happen, the time's going to come when they're not going to be in control either, because somebody else is going to be in control of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know exactly why they think that's such a great thing. I guess for control locally, it gives you pride, I guess.
When I see these folks tearing down statues and monuments, I have to give thanks to the Holy Spirit, because I'm able to discern what's really going on. They're destroying the evidence for the others, for the ones that are actually getting them charged up to go out and do the deed. If you're out there and you subscribe to these groups that are out there doing these things, ask yourself a question. Why aren't the ones that are providing the finances out there doing it? How come they're always using black and brown folks to go do it, to go do the deeds? How come they never do it?
Yeah.
It's interesting. And so I know when I see it happening, I just see evidence being destroyed. So 20, 30 years down the road, the grandchildren won't be able to know where the starting point is of who was at fault for what. And I think that's all by design. They want them to destroy the evidence.
Well, it's so sad that they can just get poor little people that need $50 or something like that to hire them to come in and throw bricks through windows and do crazy stuff. I think if we'd really look at both sides of the story, well, the ones that are over there on that side are destroying everything. And then the rest of us, I guess we're just watching. And I think that's one of the things that I would like to encourage you conservatives, you Christians, you whatever, that have any kind of morals, that we would begin to rise up and to fight for our rights, because we've let this the left group to take over and to change the moral structure of so many institutions. And it's gonna be a hard thing to get them back. But that's what I'm fighting for, is that the values of Amarillo College would come back in line with the values of the people of Amarillo. I really believe that this is a conservative city and that it's God-fearing city. And so I really believe that more people are beginning to learn about what's really going on, and that will start standing up, that we have rights too. We don't have to just be run by the left group all the time.
On the Aspen Institute's website, one thing that shocked me is they just came right out after about the 11th minute mark and said that if you're the ones that pray to Jesus, you're the problem. Why are they so emboldened to speak like that here as of late, do you think?
Well, I'm just excited that they think we're a threat,
Yeah.
because I believe my prayers are pretty effective. And they just see us as the other side that's fighting against them. And they're right. With God on our side, we are going to win this battle.
That's
It's
correct.
not it's not going to be just somebody that wanted control and wanted to have a lot of money, but God is He's going to take over, and we're going to see who really is the winner. So I'm glad I'm on His side,
That's right.
and they can call me whatever they want to call me, and hopefully soon there'll be enough people that will stand up and defend the godly principles that we stand for.
Hosea chapter 4, verse 6 says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." And that's what we're trying to provide, is information, the truth. Anyone can be Christian. It just seems like in due time they're gonna drop off the nationalism part and just say, Christian, you're the enemy. That's where we're heading, and I believe that's where we've been for some time. It's very unfortunate that Amarillo College is subscribing to partnering with these types of groups. Makes you wonder as to why. Why on earth would they want to consider lining up with these types of groups if, in fact, they're preaching equity and inclusion when we're not included? We're excluded, and that's not a very diverse system either. If you can't include Christians into the conversation, as a matter of fact, we're being called the enemy.
It's true. Well, I was reading some more information. I'm always studying to see if I can know more. And I was reading, it was Brian Phillips, and he's in the Texas Public Policy Foundation. And he said that those words that they usually use, like Amarillo College uses diversity, equity, and inclusion. He said the real truth is that it's division, exclusion, and indoctrination. And I thought that was really very descriptive of what's really going on. And for those of you that don't know, the 2025 strategic plan of Amarillo College includes the fact that these three words will be trained, their concepts will be trained to Amarillo College's employees. And it runs down into students, because I've heard student reports about how they're being taught this. But according to Peter Hegseth out of Fox News, he says that any time you see those three words, diversity, equity, and inclusion, you see Marxism and woke principles being pushed. And he's written a book about the American mind and how it's been taken over by other doctrines. So I think he knows what he's talking about, and that's what we're dealing with here at Amarillo College.
Well, what I like to look at as a Christian is the fruit. And if we look at Detroit, if we look at Baltimore, the whole state of California, Chicago,
Colorado.
yeah, I mean, these areas are not uh, led by conservative minded individuals. And why can't they succeed if, in fact, they have the formula of these core principles of the diversity, the inclusion, and the equitable sense? How come they can't show any kind of progress? I mean, we're in 2023. Here in Amarillo alone, in the North Heights area, they're still without water pressure. You know, I go to the cultural center there, and I try to stay involved as best as I can. I grew up on the north side. I was shocked to hear that they still don't have water pressure to the degree where they feel safe that if a fire truck were to go out there to put a fire out, that they would be able to help the entire community if, God forbid, the whole community went up in flames. It's 2023, Irene. And all these groups that speak, especially Amarillo College here, how come they're not diving in to help the folks in the Heights with something as simple as water pressure? Dr. Larry Hart, Amarillo College, do you really, really mean those words? I don't think so. It doesn't seem like it, because we would see a difference in our North Heights community by now. He's been in since 2014. He mentions that he's adopted an African American son. That's fabulous. That's great. Can we go show some equity and some inclusion into the North Heights area and get some water pressure going on over there? That's the fruit. There is no fruit. It's all words.
Well, I think I've seen several articles about outcomes from this. I heard a CEO from the Home Depot, I believe it was the other day, and he was talking about the banks and the failure in the banks. And he was an older man, and he said, well, if they had quit worrying with all that social stuff, he said they might take care of their stakeholders and do something with those banks. He said it's they bought into all that social stuff, and what he's talking about is what we're talking about. And he saw it clearly that a lot of these institutions or organizations or businesses have gotten so consumed in this new ideology that they forgot what they were even there for. So the outcomes are not coming out too well. And just a while ago, I read about Fort Worth Independent School District. I saw a report about how they bought into this. And the lady that was reporting said that she saw no good outcomes. And they evidently had it for 7 years. It was a diversity and equality or something. No, it was two. It was equality and equity or something like that. That the outcomes there weren't good outcomes, but the school district had bought in with some big dollars. And so if there was something good coming out of all of this, it would be really nice. But I think I've talked to several instructors, and they just really believe that the statistics that were necessary for Amarillo College, that it demanded that the instructors would water down the education that they were putting forth. And so it's been a real problem for instructors that have integrity to pass everybody so that we can have good statistics.
Well, listen, History is kryptonite for those on the left because we can always go back to it and look at the evidence of truth, the fruit. Booker T. Washington, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, Ben Carson, just to name a few. They all faced adverse situations just like anyone else, but they didn't blame it on skin color. Dr. Martin Luther King says, don't, judge me by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character.
I heard Ben Carson just in the last couple of weeks, and what he said was really alarming, and I feel like it really is true. But he said that in this coming election, that if we don't vote for conservative values and stand up for godly things, that our country is really on the very edge of being a free country.
While you're talking, I'm going to look up something here because you'll still be on the screen there. I'm going to look up the very first female millionaire in America. And watch what happens here. Madam Charles Joseph Walker. She was born Sarah Breedlove, December 23rd, 1867. She passed away on May 25th, 1919, was an African-American entrepreneur, philanthropist, and political and social activist. She is recorded as the first female self-made millionaire in America in the Guinness Book of Records. You know why they don't advertise her? Because if you go watch how she teaches and what she speaks on, she says, let nobody present you as a victim. Let no one tell you that you cannot do it. Listen, the very first female millionaire. Why isn't that all over the news channels in preaching diversity, equity, and inclusion? If they're so for that, she would be a prime example, wouldn't she? Well,
Don't want any of those good stories. You got to have the bad stories.
Yeah, she's not a victim.
Right.
She is not a victim, and she would not teach her employees to be victims either. Yeah.
I know.
Exactly right.
I've listened a lot about Ben Carson, and I know that his mother was a hard-working single mother, and I don't know how many jobs she had, but she didn't let her two boys think that they were less than anybody else. In fact, she had a standard that was so high. I don't know how many, but I know they had to read at least a book a week or something like that. She made them smart so that they could become somebody, and she didn't ever let them feel sorry for themselves. And I think it's a great story about Ben Carson. He's a great man.
The formation of the Rainbow Coalition was created out of Chicago. And it was Italians, the lower end Caucasians, the Irish, the African Americans, the Puerto Ricans, the Hispanics. They all formed together just to survive. And it was called the Rainbow Coalition. We've heard of it with Jesse Jackson and whatnot, but he warped it. He exploited what the good people were doing in its inception. But nevertheless, the reason they were formed was because in the late 60s, there was a politician by the name of Mayor Daley. He was a Democrat. He wanted to wipe out those groups out of the city. And he set policies in place that was killing them. They couldn't survive. So that's why they formed the Rainbow Coalition. And people are going to have to go research it, but the Black Panthers actually campaigned for a Republican, and he won. He won his seat. And go research everything I'm telling you. But 4 years after that campaign, identity politics was introduced, and if you vote against a person of your same that looks like you, you're going to be called and deemed a sellout. And look at Chicago today. But that's a true story. Rainbow Coalition actually campaigned for Republican with the Black Panthers at the forefront. Yeah, true story.
Good start.
So we are at 30 minutes. Irene, I really appreciate you taking some time. I can't tell the future. I can't see the future. It would have probably been a good time to start right now because there's nobody here now. But I thought in the afternoon would be all right. Nevertheless, hopefully everybody can hear us just fine. Thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Irene is running for Amarillo College Board of Regents. Election day is May 6th. You can vote 3 times for one candidate in that particular race.
That's right.
I do understand that there's another candidate by the name of Jason Fogelsong that kind of subscribes to our same understanding here. Is that correct?
That is true.
Okay. So we want to do 2 here and 1 for him, or whatever the case is. I think that we really need to get some folks on the Board of Regents that are going to push forward this type of understanding and what's really going on. I want to come to the sum total, folks. Black and brown folks out there, listen, I'm brown, okay? Do not let these Marxist groups continue to exploit. It's not about your skin color, it's about your emotions. And we have more volume than that. Let's not fall victim to the lies. It's Marxist. It's deadly. They want to destroy the country, and they want to use you and me and our emotions to get it done. And if that day ever comes, bye-bye. Because the Republic is for what we stand, and the Republic is what gives us a voice in this country. Never forget that. And that's why they want to wipe out all the evidence also. So thank you guys for watching. God bless. Thank you, Irene. Thank you. Yeah, that message.
That's good, guys.